because I have decided that instead of spreading myself in different places as a physician, I want to put all of my efforts into our wellness division, into our health division, into Mango Medical. DPC is the baby business, and what a baby it is, because it's going to give me the opportunity, and it is giving me the opportunity to practice my God-given craft. And I, feel very strongly from a spiritual perspective that I was put on this earth to be a healer and to heal people. And I feel like that being an entrepreneur is the vessel through which I'll be able to do that. And so I'm very excited about this Mango Medical DPC. DPC stands for Direct Primary Care or Direct Patient Care, depending on your perspective. And I'll stop there because I want to not be selfish with the mic, but of course we'll get back to what DPC stands for and all those other kind of what I want to do with Mango Medical DPC ultimately and overall.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. T. My name is Paa-Kofi Obeng. Most people call me Paco. I am an internal medicine physician by training. So I started off actually Ohio State for undergrad, got my master's in public health from the School of Public Health there as well, and then took some time off. I was actually working at HRSA for a period of time, and I got to medical school. I went to the Ohio University College of Osteopathic Medicine down in Athens, Ohio, and I did an internal medicine residency after that, and then afterward I did outpatient internal medicine, primarily at Paa-Kofi for a period of time. I also worked at men's wellness centers for a period of time too. I currently work at the VA right now, but I also do some consulting as well. So there's a period of time that I actually consulted with the men's wellness as a contractor through my company as well. And currently I am working on a lifestyle medicine certification, and I'm seeing some patients, not just primary care, but also lifestyle medicine at the VA as well. So that's my story.
Great. So I want to start off with Dr. T. I want you to explain to us the DPC model and help us get a better understanding of what that is.
DPC stands for Direct Primary Care, and the reason why I emphasize direct is because most people are used to fee-for-service model of medical care, and in the fee-for-service model for medical care, there is a physician, and there's a patient, but there's also an insurance company, there is also a big pharma possibly, there's also all these other connectors and other people that in between that relationship between physician and patient. And it alters the relationship, it alters what the physician and the patient are able to accomplish together. In the direct primary care model, the emphasis is on direct because it's direct. The patient has full and unlimited access to the physician. There is no insurance company there, there's no big pharma there, there's no other connectors or disconnectors in between and in that relationship. And so the reason why I love this model is because it gets us back to the way medicine used to be practiced a long time ago, and it's just the patient and the physician, and it allows the patient to have unlimited access to the physician. Whenever you need your physician, you have your physician. And I say all these really cool things, like it's like having a doctor in your pocket, it's like having me whenever you need me, it's all these really good things. But the coolest thing about it is that this model reduces, it not only, it improves your health in so many different ways, but being a hospitalist, one of the ways that I've been able to see is that it reduces the amount of time you spend in an emergency room. It reduces hospitalization by 80% because things don't escalate. If something happens, and an example of it just happened this weekend. On a Saturday, a patient reached out to me because she thought her mother had a urinary tract infection. Symptoms started the night before. We jumped right on it. She called me at 7 in the morning. We got an appointment at noon that day. And we were able to get her antibiotics and get her everything that she needed so that we could get that taken care served immediately. It wasn't waiting 3 or 4 days to get an appointment because it's Saturday or going somewhere where she was unfamiliar. And so for me, the direct part of direct patient care or direct primary care is the part that really attracted me. The other thing about this model that I really love is that it's a membership model. And so it's like, I always say it's like going to the gym. You pay your low monthly fee, and everyone's fees are different, but ours is approximately $100 a month. And you pay that, and it's automatic membership, and once you pay that $100 a month, you have unlimited access to the physician. And so it's not, you don't pay every time you see me, and people, it's such a different model that people are trying to pay me co-pays, and I'm like, no, there is no copay. You pay your $100 a month, and you have unlimited access. So whenever you need me, if you go out of town and you forget your high blood pressure medicine, or you get a urinary tract infection while you're on vacation, you just give me a little call, and I find out what pharmacy is near you, and I get you the medication that you need. But it's not all about medication. It's all about, really what it is all about having access. And so the average appointment for a DPC doctor is going to be, your average fee-for-service appointment is going to be about 8 minutes. The average time that I spend with my patient is an hour. And so we have time to really delve into what are your goals as a patient? What do you want to accomplish? What's important to you? We are able to set goals. We're able to figure out what's going on with you and how we're going to get things better for you health-wise. And what I call it, the way I refer to it is, I say we're going to take a health journey together. We're going to ride in this car together. You're going to be in the driver's seat. I'm going to be in the passenger seat providing expertise. I never tell people how fast or slow to go. All I say is just, we got to move forward. But it's a health journey we take, and the ultimate goal is your better health. And so to me, this model allows me to actually bypass all of those other entities that seek to interrupt or seek to water down that relationship between doctor and patient. And I also have to say at this juncture that I'm not anti-insurance. A lot of times people say, oh, you don't take insurance, you're anti-insurance. I am not anti-insurance, I am pro-access. So insurance, I actually want people to get insurance because, you know, I am a lot of things and I can help you in a lot of ways. But if you break your leg, I can't give you a tea to fix that. There's no pill that's going to help your broken leg. If you get in a car accident or something like that, you need some Western medicine. You need, you know, a splint or crutches or something like that. And so that insurance becomes very important at that time. So I do want people to have catastrophic insurance. But what I must have and what I insist on having on behalf of my patients is access. I want my patients to have access to me whenever they need me, then they have me.
That's great. So I want to ask Dr. Obeng, you know, in thinking about accessibility and then also thinking about healing, when you're working with patients, what is your healing philosophy or your medical care philosophy when it comes to caring for patients?
That's a good question. Looking at the person as a whole, so where I went to at OUCOM, the philosophy was looking at the patient as a whole person as opposed to just component parts. So looking at their background, kind of looking at having a public health approach to it as well in terms of like what are their psychosocial stressors as well as, you know, their physiological stressors as well. So what is going on with the whole person, and then kind of addressing those issues as best you can during the patient encounter. So that might be talking about, like, for example, I had a patient who had, I would say had a lot of family members depending on him. So we talked about setting boundaries, you know, so that was another stressor for him because that kind of is one of the things that's affecting his health. He's a diabetic, he had other comorbidities, but so looking at them as a whole and addressing some of those issues. Sometimes it can be hard depending on, because of the time frame. Dr. T made a good point. A lot of times you have very limited time with patients. At the VA, they give us about 30 minutes, but really we end up seeing maybe like 15, 20 minutes. But using the time that you have during appointments to address some of those issues as effectively as you can. So kind of looking at them as a whole, not necessarily always looking to the pill, you know, but kind of looking at lifestyle, in terms of lifestyle change.
And what is your philosophy, Dr. T, when it comes to patient care? I know you said accessibility, but what else is in your philosophy or beliefs in caring for patients?
So I classify myself as a holistic physician, as an integrative medicine physician. I do touch on being a functional medicine physician at times. I am in total agreement with the whole patient approach. I love a lot of the principles of lifestyle medicine. In fact, I use the 6 core principles as the foundational, as the foundation that we build the patient's health on. That look at, sleep and look at toxic substances and looks at relationships and that you're having, and those things are very important. And they allow you to bring in kind of the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspects of a patient. And for me, being a holistic doctor, I also have in my back pocket being looking at herbal medicine, looking at things that are outside. And I'm not, I'm not against big pharma, as they say. I have patients that are on typical Western medicine regimens, but the fact of the matter is, I feel like there are people, I give people a choice. There are people who come to me and say, I have high blood pressure and I prefer not to be on any medications. I want to be able to, is there a way to just do this with, food-based substances, teas, is there a way to do it? And so if that's your ultimate goal, then that becomes my ultimate goal for you, because I can manage high blood pressure and not use Western medicine to do so. There are people who are okay with a mixture of both. And then there are other people who, they don't want twigs and berries, they just want the Western medicine that they used to, and that's fine too. So for me, it's all about choice. I do educate to tell people that, it is nice to be able to do things from a holistic perspective and be able to use things that, modalities that are not just strictly, Western medications, but it's ultimately up to what makes the patient comfortable, and what makes the patient comfortable does change over time as they build their relationship with me, and as they are starting to feel healthy, and as they start to work toward whatever their goals are. And to me, that's also a part of the patient-centered approach, is to work on what's important to them, or at the same time, building in the things that I might see that I might think need to be added as important as well.
And so in both of your practices, what role does nutrition play when you're working with your patients?
I would say it plays a large role in terms of what they their outcomes, health outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So as we all know, a majority of health conditions in this country are chronic disease based, and all that is linked to what we eat. So encouraging them to have like more of a whole food diet as opposed to processed foods. That's one of the things I encourage: get more fruits and vegetables in their diet, and then also to encouraging them to going back to what Dr. Teule was saying about getting proper rest as well. But nutrition plays a huge role, because especially with your diabetics, your hypertensives, things of that nature, if you key into what they're eating and some of those habits in terms of their salt intake, in terms of their sugar intake, you can address the majority of that with food interventions and lifestyle. Just like Dr. Teule was saying, if we keep keying on those areas, they won't necessarily have to be on an ACE inhibitor or one of those medications for blood pressure or a cholesterol medication. You key into that, and they'll be able to control things better. And that's one thing I encourage, especially my patients who have diseases like diabetes, which is ubiquitous in our community. So, yeah.
And I completely agree. And I would say that I actually build nutrition into the part of the foundation of, not only with those 6 principles of lifestyle medicine, but I actually do a functional lab assessment with my patients when they first start off, and where I focus on, I don't just focus on the lab ranges that everyone is used to, because those are all focused on being not abnormal, but not, your health focus shouldn't be, I'm not abnormal. Health focus should be, well, I'm where my body wants to be optimally. And so I look at I focus on optimal cellular health. And so that's what I look at when I do a $4,000 panel of labs. And of
Oh,
course,
wow.
it doesn't cost $4,000 because, you know, I would not be a good DPC doctor if I charged somebody that much money for doing labs. So that $4,000 panel distills down to about $250 DPC price if you're paying cash price if you don't have insurance, or it can be also covered by insurance. But what that panel does is the most comprehensive, for most people, it's the most comprehensive lab panel that they've ever received. But it allows me to look at what's going on in your body at a cellular level. And so I'm able to look at nutrition from a macro level, but also a micro level and a cellular level. And so I'm able to look at nutrient deficiencies. I'm able to look at what's going on with all of your major organs like thyroid gland and adrenal gland and liver, and looking at whether your liver and your kidneys are detoxing you as they should. And so those are things that I start off with, foundational. In my practice, I start off with that foundation, with that optimal lab analysis, and also start off with the what I call the 6 core principles of lifestyle medicine. Those two things along with what the patient tells me their health goals are. And that's how we start each relationship, so that we can start with a very good foundation and then move out from there. So nutrition is, and then, you know, also from there is one of the 6 core principles of lifestyle medicine is all about nutrition and plant-based diet or maximizing, you know, plant-based diet, anti-inflammatory. We do a lot with anti-inflammatory diets. We actually start people on a detox. If their numbers come back and they have high inflammatory markers and they need to kind of get some of that inflammation out of their body, we start with an anti-inflammatory diet to really try to pull that inflammation out, open up those detox pathways, and get people to start to heal from a cellular level.
Wow. So with your both of your patient panels, how do they build a relationship with do you have any tips on how we as patients can build a relationship with our doctors where we're not in fear to ask questions or make requests? Because sometimes, you know, for myself, and I've heard it from others, that when they go to the doctor, they're afraid to ask or talk about certain things because they feel like they may get a no from their doctor. So how do you have that open communication, and what do you do to build a relationship with your patients?
For me, I think it's in the structure of how I built my practice in the first place. I think a direct primary care practice, just that structure alone, you know, starts toward moving in the right direction to be able to have a good and positive and open relationship where a patient doesn't feel fear. But we go, you know, we are lucky that we have a director of patient experience, which is our other business partner, and she's always looking to see, okay, how can we make this more friendly? How can we make it more open? So my actual office, I had a 6-year-old say that it looked like a talk show. She came in and she said, "So are we going to see Sherry Shepherd?" Because she felt like my office looked like it looked like a talk show. It looked like Sherry Shepherd was going to come out and interview her. And that's because it's set up where it's 2 chairs and we're sitting here talking to each other, 2 comfortable chairs, and we're facing each other. We have a table in between, and we have things like tea with Dr. T. And we also spend time in that first visit where we're just getting to know each other, and the patient's telling me what's important to them. And even though you may be nervous at first as a patient, if you have an hour to just sit there and relax and kick back and drink tea and just chat with me, eventually you're going to relax, and eventually you're going to tell me what's important, and because you have the time to do so. I also make sure that I want to keep very open. I want to make sure that I am just very friendly, very open, very inviting, and always have our director of patient experience. She's always focused on making sure that we have elements in the office, making sure all those intangibles and those little things to make our office as welcoming and as open as it can be, but also looking at our director of nursing, which is, she's sitting in the back, she has an orange light. it starts off with her because she's the first person to see them, and she welcomes them, and she's very friendly, and she's very open, and she's the one that brings the tea. So they're just like, where's that nurse T? She is awesome. I love my nurse T. So everything about the visit is always about warmth and making people feel comfortable. Because the more comfortable you feel, and I've had patients come in there and they're shaking in their boots. They're like, what are you about to tell me? What's on this assessment?
Yeah.
And and I tell them everything on this assessment is reversible. I'm of the mindset that chronic disease, most of them can be reversed. And so I tell them that everything you see here can be reversed. It's just all about taking the time and the journey to do so. And so therefore, and then from that, we just try to flow and create organic experiences with them so that they feel comfortable.
Great, great. And Dr. Obeng?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I 100% agree with what Dr. T was saying. I think in my case, what I typically will do is try and just have a good bedside manner, because a lot of times, unfortunately, we don't have a good bedside manner, and that includes, being friendly, being open, trying to have a smile on your face, not necessarily being negative, and giving the person the time to speak, because I think a lot of times, sometimes we as physicians have a hard time listening to patients. It's like, I forget what the statistic is, but we really give patients like almost no time to say something before we speak. It's like, okay, we got to just, okay, let's you got this, okay, let's go ahead and treat you, blah, 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 and then move on to the next patient. But it really shouldn't be that way, honestly. So giving the time for the person to speak, be open, and just build that connection, and just have a friendly demeanor as well about it too. That's kind of what I like to do. I like my patients too. That kind of breaks down some of the maybe some of the barriers that they might have in terms of dealing with the physician, because it's like, okay, he's cool, very nice and friendly. So I've had patients so far who like, I've been at the VA for about just shy of 4 years, and a lot of patients just like love the fact that, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but they love the fact that I'm like one of the friendlier doctors that they've been with before. So that to me is important. That way they feel open and tell me, okay, this is what's going on with me, doc. It might be embarrassing, it might be something that, they would not really talk to other doctors about, but it's something that they're open to me about. And I can address it, and, we can kind of tackle the issue. So,
Thank you.
So, I want to talk about longevity, because in our community, we don't talk about living longer in a sense. Usually it's more so, I'm just trying to get through the next day, or I'm just trying to get to the next month. But I want us to have more conversations about living to 100 and 120 years. Our, grandmothers and grandfathers were able to live that long, but you see those in our cohort that they're not living long, and living long is not a focus. And so what are your thoughts on longevity, and share with us, how can we get our community more focused on longevity?
But Dr. T, you can, yeah.
So I think longevity is very important for our community. I think everything you just said is 100% spot on. For me, I think that's why the holistic model is so important to me. I feel like, and I'm actually talking about anti-aging, and I'm talking about longevity when I'm talking with my patients. That's why I like doing that lab assessment. I'm showing them, look at, I have them count. Okay, let's start counting with our fingers how many anti-inflammatory markers that you have, or how many inflammatory markers you have that are elevated. And then, once they get to about 10, they just like, I'm not counting anymore. And so then I'm like, but I don't want you to feel discouraged, because this is where you start. This is where you start. This is not where you end. And we're going to work on getting these inflammatory markers to the point where you don't have any. And I tell them that we do see inflammation. First of all, even before I talk about that, I spend some time talking about this environment and this society that we live in. The United States overall is not, I don't know if you all have probably heard of them talking about like blue zones, and why people in blue zones live to be centenarians, but most of what we do in this country is not supportive of blue zone supportive at all. And I talk to patients about how they're assaulted from the moment they pop out of their mommies and all day long. You know, we take these poor innocent little babies and we put all these lotions with talc and all kinds of other chemicals on them. We oftentimes feed them things that have all sorts of chemicals, and it's a continuous process all the way into adulthood. So even, you know, I was reading an article that said that every day we're assaulted with about 200 different toxins and chemicals that can disrupt our whole immune system and endocrine system. From taking a shower in water that has chlorine and arsenic and substances in it, other, you know, little bits of medications that people flush down the toilet that's now showing up in our water that we shower with. Microplastics are showing up in our water that we shower with. And unless you have a shower filter, all that's going on the biggest organ of your body, which is your skin. So you're washing your face with that, you're washing your hair with that, all over your whole entire body. What you're washing your body with is not clean shampoo, it's not clean conditioner, it's not clean body wash. We don't all know this. We don't all know what to look for. You know, we are relying on the FDA and other organizations to tell us this is okay and it's all fine and wonderful, when a lot of these substances that have been approved are not good for our health at all. And so you're talking about the things that you put on your skin, you're talking about the things that you put in your body, the things you eat, the things you sit on, the things you lay on. You know, I've read articles about, they say that the pollution amounts inside your home are higher than they are outside your home. Like, how does that make sense? Well, it makes sense because we've got furniture that's off-gassing, and we've got candles that are toxic. We've got all these things that we're trying to make our space beautiful and wonderful, and it's all not that great for us. And so for us, you know, for me, it's explaining how all that affects you. And then, you know, you don't want people to be depressed after you explain all that. So then I tell people, but it's good to know. And then what you do is you reduce it as much as you can. You may not be able to reduce it 100%, but making a concerted effort. You kind of choose what can you do. You know, there may be people who say, you know, just as a little joke, I'll tell you, I'm like, I know, you know, I have clean, I use a lot of clean body products. I try to eat as clean as I can. I don't like gray hair. So, you know, when some of them pop out, I say no. And so I have tried to find a nice guy that, and I like gray hair on other hair dye. And but the only way you can do the best you can is to have the knowledge to begin with. So you have to know, and you have to be informed, and you have to know that all of these things are the way they are so that you can choose what's going to be the best thing for you. And by choosing to live as toxically free as you can, and by choosing to eat in a way that's not inflammatory, by choosing to get proper sleep, all those six tenets of lifestyle medicine I think is so important, by choosing to make sure that you don't have toxic, like you were talking about with your patient, not to have toxic relationships, and even if it's your closest family members, you know, sometimes you need to have a little bit more space between you and that person. It's best for your health. By looking at all those things, you're able, putting all those two things together and adding them up, those are the things that are going to help you live longer and live better and live to be able to say that 80 is the new 40.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Obeng.
Oh, I think Dr. T summarized most of it. I really have not much to add, but
I would definitely encourage people in terms of longevity, thinking that it is for us. So I think a lot of times you look at other cultures, other people groups, and think like, oh, they can live to X, Y, and Z age because they have X, Y, and Z advantage. But no, it's also for us too, you know. Yeah, I think also too, if you look at there's a Western bias in terms of how it gets evaluated because they're looking at primarily Western cultures or maybe Asian cultures. They totally omit African cultures too. They're out there. I mean, even some of the foods that we eat. So I'll just take West Africa for example. You have like spinach stews, which are common staples in our diet. That has spinach has anti-inflammatory properties as well. Some of the soups we have also have like spices that are also good in terms of dealing with inflammation and other things of that nature. So a lot of times, I'll use myself as an example. My great grandmother on my mom's side, she lived to be I think 104, 103, or 105. She lived a long time. She actually outlived my maternal great grandmother outlived my maternal grandmother. Yeah, so that tells you something in terms of her growing up during that period of time, what she ate, how she lived, and especially they're very physically active. Whether it be they live in the village or in the cities, they're always on their feet. They're riding their bikes. They're doing things of that nature. So I think there are blue zones in Africa. They just haven't been looked into, and I think that's something that I think the medical society should look into that more. So because I think they're there, it's just they haven't done the research to look deeply. They haven't taken the time, or I don't think they really care to look into that, and they should.
It just is. And so I think the narrative out there is that um, you can't start talking about having blue zones in Africa if the narrative is that Africa's bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, AIDS came from there and all sorts of things that are not true. If that's the narrative, you don't maintain the narrative by saying something good. And I know that's kind of a negative way to think, but it's based on reality and kind of based on, what we see. And then, I also had read recently that another reason why you don't see that you don't hear about blue zones in Africa is because there is a financial incentive to be classified as one, and then other countries are paying. There is some sort of monetary exchange in order to be classified and be studied.
Wellness,
and
tourism.
yeah,
Tourism.
exactly. And so that's not necessarily a focus in our African countries, or they're not even asked. So I think it's a combination of kind of that political bias to maintain that perspective that's going to allow you to do the things that you want to do that may not be all that positive at all. And it's also, a financial incentive of, they weren't, that just wasn't the focus. But I definitely think, that there are blue zones in Africa, and I think that just it would be impossible for there not to be. I mean, it's just the way that the cultures and the land and the way when you look at it, if you just look at it from the outside looking in, and when you think about the areas that are classified as blue zones, it's impossible for there not to be multiple blue zone areas in Africa, which is why I want to go back.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that too, because you think about it, a continent that is, yeah, like she said, it's almost impossible. How can a continent that's so diverse have no blue zones? It doesn't make any sense.
So yesterday we had two experts that talked about Pilates and tennis as physical activities that, you know, women of color can use. And so
I wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, they have there's, you know, aerobics and things, but some of us don't want to do those sorts of exercises because of our hair, you know. So, you know, I wanted to bring in some, you know, other like Pilates and tennis, something different that, you know, we could do. But what other trends or other things that do you advise your patients to do when it comes to exercise?
Well, I'm going to answer that by backing up a little bit.
Okay.
Because there is a difference in the type of exercise one should do if you are highly inflamed and what you should do if you are not. And I think that there is not enough emphasis placed on that. Because if you have a lot of inflammatory markers and you are very inflamed, there's no way you should do HIIT. Because your body is going to interpret it as another assault. It's not going to interpret it as anything positive. And in fact, if you're highly inflamed, a 30-minute walk every day is all you need. And you want to stay mobile, you want to move, and I'm not saying that you can't do other things like Pilates. I love Pilates and tennis, but what I'm saying is that walking is something that everyone can do. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You can find the clothes and the shoes to be able to do it. You can add some weights later if you want to. You can always build on it. But if you are someone that's that's a very inflamed person, and a lot of people are inflamed, just because your environment and your lifestyle living in this country, it almost makes it impossible for you not to be, unless you are really striving hard to not be so. So therefore, you know, doing these programs, and that's why people always ask, well, why does it get harder for you as you get older? It really has not much to do. It doesn't have as much to do with age as people think. What it has to do with, to me, is a toxin buildup level. If you've been assaulted with toxins and assaulted with just inflammatory processes since the moment you popped out of your mama, all the way, and you know, maybe you're going to be at a different level of inflammation at 20 versus 40 versus 50 versus 60 if you haven't done anything to reverse any of those processes. So when you get to be a certain age, your body is just so, the toxin level has built up, the inflammation level has built up to a certain level that some of the things that you used to do don't work anymore the way that they do. So you're going to have to do something different. You're going to have to baby and treat your fight or flight system with care and relaxation and peace, because if you don't, if you go out there and try to do Jane Fonda's workout, it's going to be interpreted as another source of inflammation and irritation. So I think the larger answer to your question is exercise and mobility. Being mobile is something that everyone should do. And you know, it's one of those 6 principles of lifestyle medicine that isn't, you have to, the blue zone folks, everyone has to be mobile. But how you're mobile, it depends on what your health condition is. And it has a lot to do with just how inflamed you are.
Dr. Obeng?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of physical activity, I would say probably low impact activities are fine. And even some other options would be something like like Afrobeats dancing, that type of thing. Of course, we know Zumba, things of that nature. So some of my patients, anything that's low impact is fine, as long as they're being active. That's the key. So I'm 100% agree with what Dr. C was saying.
Have any questions for the doctors?
No questions? Well, I did have a question about the DPC model. So when a patient joins the membership, are they using like their FSA, or can they take the bill and send it to their insurance to recoup, or how does that work?
So the membership model with DPC practice is not connected to insurance at all. So physicians who are doing DPC are not being paid for they're not receiving reimbursement or payment from the insurance company. So they're completely separate. So if you have insurance, then that's going to be a relationship between you and the insurance company, and you will be able to send your labs and things. If DPC practices can write the ICD-10 codes and things down, but they're not going to be reimbursed for those services. So that's going to be something that the insurance company can pay for on behalf of the person that has the insurance, but it won't be connected to the DPC physician at all. The DPC physician their relationship is only with the patient, and so that $100 can come from different sources. It cannot come from insurance companies. Whether or not it can come from FSA or HSA, I always tell people, check with your accountant, because there are different rules about it. Those are connected to insurance, and sometimes they are not allowed to be used for DPC. The insurance companies they have a very watchful eye on DPCs. They will lobby to shut down a DPC if they feel like this DPC is getting too close to being like an insurance product. When you open a DPC practice, you need to have an order. I have an order to make sure that things are kept appropriately different and appropriately separate. So you have to kind of check with your accountant to see if FSA, or we will take FSA, flexible spending accounts, or health spending accounts, but I can't speak to whether or not that's allowed from the person that's kind of originating those accounts, because that is something that I always tell people, make sure you're checking with your accountant and making sure you're doing making sure you're following those rules, because we can't, we definitely take whatever form of payment that you have. So we also take, there are people who do like care credit and things like that, and they don't necessarily do that for the monthly membership, but I also have other programs. I have a Measures Up program that is focusing on helping people lose weight in a very healthy and holistic way. And it's an integrated program because it combines Western medicine, and it also combines functional medicine or integrative medicine as well, and help people lose weight and from a holistic perspective. And then I have other programs that help people as well. But and those programs are a little bit, they have different price points, and so programs like some of those health finance companies will work very well for those. I always tell people too, when they're trying to decide, can I afford this membership, or can I add them to add up how many times that they've gone to Wawa to get meals there, add up every time they've gone to Starbucks, add up every time that they've gone to Chick-fil-A, and when you add those times all up, especially if you're going to Starbucks, you get to $100 pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think that I'm never going to jump in someone's pocket, because everybody's circumstances are different, but usually people can find that if they really want to afford a DPC practice, they easily can.
So my last question for you is, what does wellness mean to each of you?
I would say wellness means having, I guess, a full spectrum best life. So making, I know it sounds kind of weird, but basically making sure that everything is good in terms of the spiritual aspect, the physical aspect, mental aspect. It's all incorporated. It's not just the body. There's other aspects to us as human beings. So having balance in all those areas, having good social connectedness is important. I think that's an important part of wellness. Having a good spiritual foundation if you are a spiritual person, having a good lifestyle in terms of physical activity, diet, things of that nature, and also getting good proper rest and stress relief as well. So.
I agree. I feel like wellness is about balance. It's also about feeling good, and it's about living to your best potential. I feel like as a spiritual person, I feel like we were all put here to do something great and wonderful, and to realize our gifts. And a lot of times, I don't think people they don't fulfill their gifts because you know, if they don't have optimal health oftentimes because they're so bogged down with kind of taking care of their health. They can't breathe, they can't manage their sugars, they can't this, they can't that. I feel like that health should be something that's just, you want to get it to a place where it's balanced and automatic so that you can spend time listening to what God tells you you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I thank you both so much for sharing your expertise and your insight. And I want to give them a round of applause. And then also, please make sure you talk to Dr. T, learn more about her DPC model as well as